Hey everyone! Welcome to the Epoxy Flooring Masterclass here on Hanon Resin Craft. If you've ever wanted to create stunning, durable, and professional epoxy floors, you're in the right place. This course is designed to take you from beginner to pro, covering everything you need to know, from the tools and materials to the best techniques for achieving smooth, long-lasting floors. Epoxy flooring has become a game-changer in home improvement, garages, businesses, and even luxury interiors. It's not just about looks. It's about durability, protection, and adding serious value to any space. What you'll learn in this course. In this masterclass, we'll go step by step through everything, including what epoxy flooring is and why it's so popular, essential tools and materials you need to get started, how to prepare your floors properly for the best results, mixing and applying epoxy correctly to avoid costly mistakes, advanced design techniques like metallic, flake, and 3D flooring, how to seal and maintain your floors for long-lasting beauty, common mistakes and troubleshooting tips, even 3D epoxy floor design. By the end of this course, you'll be able to install epoxy floors like a pro and even start offering epoxy flooring services to clients. Tools and materials overview. Before we get started, let's quickly talk about the tools and materials you'll need. Epoxy flooring requires the right equipment to get a smooth, even finish. Epoxy resin types: 100% solid, water-based, solvent-based. Mixing tools: measuring buckets, mixing paddles, drills. Application tools: rollers, trowels, squeegees, and spike shoes. Pigments and effects: metallic powders, flakes, and dyes. Safety gear: gloves, masks, goggles, and proper ventilation. Don't worry, we'll go in depth on how to use each tool later in the course. Safety first. Essential precautions. Epoxy flooring is an amazing material, but safety is key when working with it. Always work in a well-ventilated area to avoid harmful fumes. Wear protective gloves and masks to protect your skin and lungs. Use proper mixing ratios to avoid sticky, uncured resin. Prepare your workspace by removing dust and debris before pouring. If you follow these simple safety tips, you'll have a smooth and problem-free experience when working with epoxy. Before we dive into the first lesson, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, drop a comment below and tell me, what type of epoxy floor are you excited to try? Metallic? Flake? 3D? Let's get the conversation going. What's next? Alright, now that you know what to expect, let's jump into Lesson 1. Understanding epoxy flooring. I'll see you there.
In the glow, creations like Hanon Craft, resin shining bright, molding dreams with every pore, building knowledge, opening doors, with hands that shape and minds that soar, crafting futures we explore, every piece of story told, in the heart of art we find bold gold, join the journey, feel the spark, together we'll lead.
Epoxy Flooring Masterclass, Lesson 1. Understanding epoxy flooring. Objective: explain what epoxy flooring is, how it works, and the different types available for various applications. Narration script. Hey everyone! Welcome to Lesson 1 of our Epoxy Flooring Masterclass. Today, we're diving deep into understanding epoxy flooring, what it is, how it works, and the different types available. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a solid foundation on epoxy flooring and be able to choose the right type for your project. What is epoxy flooring? So, what exactly is epoxy flooring? Epoxy flooring is a liquid resin system that, when mixed and applied correctly, hardens into a durable, seamless, and glossy surface. It's extremely strong, chemical resistant, and perfect for homes, garages, commercial spaces, and industrial floors. It's not just paint. Unlike regular floor coatings, epoxy actually bonds chemically to the concrete, making it super durable and long-lasting. It's waterproof, stain-resistant, and easy to clean. No more worrying about oil stains or moisture damage. It looks amazing, from solid colors to metallic swirls, 3D illusions, and decorative flakes. Epoxy flooring is both functional and artistic. How does epoxy work? Now, let's break it down into simple steps. Epoxy is made of two main parts. Part A. The epoxy resin. This is the main base that provides the smooth, glossy texture. Part B. The hardener, activator. This triggers the chemical reaction that makes the epoxy cure and harden. When you mix these two components in the correct ratio, a chemical reaction begins, turning the liquid into a rock-solid, ultra-durable coating. Types of epoxy flooring and their best uses. Not all epoxy floors are the same. Different types of epoxy work better for different surfaces and environments. 1. 100% solid epoxy, industrial grade. Best for garages, warehouses, and high-traffic areas. Features: ultra-thick, durable, and chemical resistant. Pros: super strong, no VOCs, no harmful fumes. Cons: harder to apply, shorter working time. 2. Water-based epoxy, beginner-friendly. Best for homes, basements, and light traffic areas. Features: thinner consistency, easier to work with. Pros: lower odor, longer working time. Cons: not as durable as solid epoxy. 3. Solvent-based epoxy, commercial and heavy-duty. Best for showrooms, parking garages, commercial buildings. Features: strong chemical resistance, high gloss finish. Pros: extremely durable, deep color penetration. Cons: strong fumes, requires proper ventilation. 4. Metallic epoxy, luxury aesthetic. Best for high-end homes, bars, salons, hotels. Features: stunning 3D effects, marble-like metallic swirls. Pros: unique, artistic, customizable. Cons: requires advanced techniques to apply correctly. 5. Epoxy flake flooring, slip-resistant. Best for garages, gyms, outdoor patios. Features: decorative flakes add texture and grip. Pros: hides imperfections, durable, slip-resistant. Cons: requires multiple layers and sealing coats. Common epoxy flooring mistakes and how to avoid them. Epoxy flooring is amazing when done right, but there are some common mistakes that can ruin your floor. Here's how to avoid them. Mistake number 1. Not prepping the floor properly. Solution: always clean, etch, and prime the concrete before applying epoxy. Mistake number 2. Wrong mixing ratios. Solution: follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. A small mistake in the ratio can cause the epoxy to remain sticky or never cure. Mistake number 3. Bubbles and air pockets. Solution: use a heat gun or torch after pouring to remove bubbles. Mistake number 4. Applying epoxy in humid conditions. Solution: work in a dry environment. Moisture can cause cloudy or uneven curing. Are you enjoying the course so far? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Also, let me know in the comments below, which type of epoxy flooring are you most excited to try? Metallic? Flakes? 3D? Let's chat. What's next? Now that you understand the basics, let's move on to Lesson 2, Essential Tools and Workspace Setup, where I'll show you everything you need to get started. See you there.
In the glow, creations like Hanon Resin shining bright, molding dreams with every pore, building knowledge, opening doors with hands that shape and minds that soar. Crafted futures we explore, every piece a story told. In the heart of art we find bold gold. Join the journey, feel the spark. Together we'll lead.
Epoxy Flooring Masterclass, Lesson 2, Essential Tools and Workspace Setup. Objective of the lesson: learn the must-have tools, workspace setup, and safety measures for a successful epoxy flooring project. Welcome back to Lesson 2 of our Epoxy Flooring Masterclass. In this lesson, we'll cover the essential tools and workspace setup you need for a flawless epoxy floor. Having the right tools and a properly prepared workspace makes all the difference between a smooth, professional finish, and a project full of bubbles, uneven spots, or peeling issues. Must-have tools for epoxy flooring. 1. Mixing tools. Measuring scale, precise mixing is crucial for the epoxy to cure properly. Plastic mixing buckets. Choose graduated buckets to measure epoxy correctly. Drill mixer, paddle mixer. A must-have for thoroughly mixing epoxy and hardener. 2. Surface preparation tools. Floor grinder/diamond grinder, used to roughen up concrete for better adhesion. Vacuum cleaner removes all dust and debris after grinding. Etching solution. If you don't have a grinder, use this acid-based solution to prepare concrete. 3. Application tools. Squeegee, for spreading epoxy evenly across large areas. Rollers, 9-inch, 3/8 nap, lint-free. Used for applying primer and final coats. Spiked shoes, allows you to walk on wet epoxy without leaving marks. 4. Bubble removal tools. Torch or heat gun, helps eliminate bubbles after pouring. Spiked roller, special roller that smooths out bubbles and levels epoxy. 5. Protective gear, safety first. Gloves, nitrile or chemical resistant, protects hands from resin. Respirator mask, VOC rated, prevents inhaling toxic fumes. Safety goggles, shields eyes from splashes. Protective coveralls and shoe covers, keeps clothes and shoes epoxy-free. Setting up your workspace. Choose a well-ventilated area, open windows, and use fans to reduce fumes. Maintain the right temperature. Epoxy cures best at 18 to 25 degrees Celsius, 65 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep the space dust-free. Avoid dust falling into wet epoxy. Cover vents and doors. Organize your tools before you start. Once epoxy is mixed, you have limited time. Common workspace mistakes and how to avoid them. Mistake number 1. Mixing epoxy in a dirty room. Problem: dust and debris will ruin the finish. Solution: vacuum the room before starting and work in a clean area. Mistake number 2. Not controlling temperature and humidity. Problem: epoxy won't cure properly in cold or humid conditions. Solution: use a room heater or dehumidifier if needed. Mistake number 3. Running out of epoxy mid-project. Problem: stopping midway causes visible seams and uneven curing. Solution: calculate epoxy quantity beforehand. We'll cover this in Lesson 4. Are you finding this course helpful? Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next lesson. Comment below which tool surprised you the most. Let's discuss what's next. Now that you have the right tools and workspace setup, let's move to Lesson 3. Preparing the floor for epoxy coating. This step is critical for a long-lasting professional finish. See you in the next lesson.
In the glow, creations like Hanon Resin shining bright, molding dreams with every pore, building knowledge, opening doors, with hands that shape and minds that soar. Crafted futures we explore, every piece a story told. In the heart of art we find bold gold. Join the journey, feel the spark, together we'll lead.
Epoxy Flooring Masterclass, Lesson 3, Surface Preparation. Objective of the course: learn the critical steps to prepare your floor before applying epoxy for a flawless, long-lasting finish. Welcome to Lesson 3 of our Epoxy Flooring Masterclass. Before you even think about pouring epoxy, you need to make sure your floor is perfectly prepared. If you skip this step or rush it, your epoxy could peel, bubble, or fail to bond properly, and nobody wants that. In this lesson, we'll cover how to clean, repair, and prep your surface for the best results. Let's get started. Step 1. Assessing your floor type. Epoxy works best on bare, unsealed concrete. If your floor has paint, oil stains, or old coatings, they must be removed first. How to test if your floor is ready. Water absorption test. Pour a small amount of water onto the concrete. If it absorbs quickly, your floor is good to go. If it beads up, your floor is sealed and needs to be ground or etched. Tape test. Stick a piece of duct tape to the floor and peel it off. If dust or paint sticks to the tape, you need more cleaning or grinding. Step 2. Cleaning and degreasing the floor. Remove all dust, dirt, oil, and grease. Epoxy won't bond properly if the surface is dirty. Best cleaning process. 1. Sweep the entire area to remove loose debris. 2. Use a degreaser, like TSP, for oil stains. Scrub with a stiff brush. 3. Pressure wash or mop with warm water. 4. Let the surface dry completely before moving to the next step. Step 3. Surface profiling, grinding, or acid etching. Why is this important? For epoxy to bond perfectly, the surface needs to be slightly rough, like 150 grit sandpaper. Option 1. Diamond grinding. Best method. Use a diamond grinder to create a textured surface. Vacuum up all dust after grinding. Option 2. Acid etching. Alternative method. Mix 1 part muriatic acid with 3 parts water. Pour evenly and scrub with a stiff brush. Let it react for 10 to 15 minutes until it stops bubbling. Neutralize with baking soda plus water and rinse thoroughly. Warning: always wear protective gear, gloves, mask, goggles, when handling acid. Step 4. Repairing cracks and imperfections. Cracks, holes, or uneven areas can ruin your epoxy floor. Fix them before coating. How to fix floor issues. For small cracks, use epoxy filler or concrete patch. For large cracks or holes, fill with cement-based patching compound. Uneven floors? Use a self-leveling compound. Step 5. Final vacuum and moisture check. Vacuum the entire floor one last time to remove dust. Check for moisture. Epoxy can fail if the concrete is too damp. How to check for moisture. Tape a plastic sheet to the floor and leave it for 24 hours. If you see condensation or dark spots, wait longer for the floor to dry. Common preparation mistakes and how to avoid them. Mistake number 1. Skipping grinding or etching. Problem: epoxy won't stick well, leading to peeling. Solution: always profile your surface. Mistake number 2. Not cleaning properly. Problem: dust and grease cause bubbles and adhesion issues. Solution: degrease, etch, and vacuum thoroughly. Mistake number 3. Applying epoxy on a damp floor. Problem: moisture gets trapped, causing delamination. Solution: always perform a moisture test before starting. Are you excited to see the actual epoxy application? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Comment below. What part of floor prep seems the hardest? I'd love to help. What's next? Now that we've fully prepped the floor, we're ready for the most exciting step: applying epoxy. In Lesson 4, we'll cover mixing, pouring, and leveling your first coat of epoxy for a perfect finish. See you in the next lesson.
In the glow, creations like Hanon Craft, resin shining bright, molding dreams with every pore, building knowledge, opening doors, with hands that shape and minds that soar. Crafted futures we explore, every piece a story told. In the heart of art we find bold gold. Join the journey, feel the spark, together we'll lead.
Epoxy Flooring Masterclass, Lesson 4. First Coat Application. Objective of this lesson: learn how to properly mix, pour, and spread the first coat of epoxy for a smooth and bubble-free finish. Welcome to Lesson 4 of our Epoxy Flooring Masterclass. Now that your floor is clean, dry, and prepped, it's time to apply the first coat of epoxy. This step is critical. It determines how well your epoxy will bond and how smooth your final result will be. We'll cover mixing ratios, spreading techniques, and how to avoid common mistakes. Let's get started. Step 1. Choosing the right epoxy type. Primer coat. Recommended. Thin epoxy layer to improve adhesion. Self-leveling epoxy. Best for smooth, even floors. High build epoxy. Thicker, more durable, great for heavy-duty areas. For beginners, start with a primer coat, then a self-leveling epoxy. Step 2. Mixing epoxy resin and hardener. Why is this important? If the ratio is incorrect, your epoxy won't cure properly. Standard mixing ratio: 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. check your product instructions. 1. Measure exact amounts of Part A, resin, and Part B, hardener. 2. Pour Part B into Part A slowly, never the other way around. 3. Mix for 3 to 5 minutes using a drill mixer at low speed. 4. Scrape the sides and bottom of the bucket to mix evenly. 5. Let it sit for 2 minutes to allow air bubbles to rise. Warning: never mix more than you can apply within 30 minutes. Step 3. Applying the first primer coat. A thin primer coat prevents air bubbles and improves adhesion. Application process. 1. Start in a back corner and work towards the exit. 2. Pour a small amount onto the floor in an S or zigzag pattern. 3. Use a squeegee to spread evenly over the surface. 4. Back roll with a paint roller to smooth it out. 5. Let it cure for 8 to 12 hours before adding another layer. Tip: wear spiked shoes so you can walk on the wet epoxy without leaving marks. Step 4. Removing air bubbles with a torch or roller. Why do bubbles form? Mixing too fast. Applying on a porous surface. Temperature changes. How to remove bubbles. Use a heat torch or propane torch. Move quickly over the surface. Use a spiked roller to pop bubbles in self-leveling epoxy. Avoid overmixing to prevent excess bubbles in the first place. Step 5. Curing time and next steps. Let the first coat fully cure before adding another layer. Curing time guide. Touch dry, 8 to 12 hours. Second coat ready, 12 to 24 hours. Fully cured, 5 to 7 days. Warning: don't walk on the epoxy until it's fully dry. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Mistake number 1. Mixing incorrect ratios. Problem: sticky, uncured epoxy. Solution: always measure accurately. Mistake number 2. Skipping the primer coat. Problem: poor adhesion peeling over time. Solution: apply a thin primer coat first. Mistake number 3. Not controlling bubbles. Problem: tiny bubbles ruin the smooth finish. Solution: use a torch or spiked roller immediately. Are you ready to add a second coat and finish your epoxy floor? Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss Lesson 5. Comment below. Have you ever worked with epoxy before? What was the hardest part? I'd love to hear from you. What's next? Now that your first coat is down, it's time for the final coat and top coat sealing. In Lesson 5, we'll apply a durable glossy or matte finish for a professional, long-lasting epoxy floor. See you there.
In the glow, creations like Hanon Resin shining bright, molding dreams with every pore, building knowledge, opening doors with hands that shape and minds that soar. Crafted futures we explore, every piece of story told. In the heart of art we find bold gold. Join the journey, feel the spark. Together we'll lead.
Epoxy Flooring Masterclass, Lesson 5. Final Coat and Sealing. Objective of this lesson: learn how to apply the final coat and a protective top coat for a glossy, matte, or anti-slip epoxy finish. Welcome to Lesson 5 of our Epoxy Flooring Masterclass. In this lesson, we're applying the final coat of epoxy and sealing it with a durable top coat. This step will make your floor stronger, more resistant to scratches, and give it that perfect glossy or matte finish. We'll also cover anti-slip additives, curing times, and final polishing. Let's get started. Step 1. Preparing for the final epoxy coat. Before applying the final layer, ensure the first coat is fully cured, 12 to 24 hours. Lightly sand the surface with 220 to 400 grit sandpaper. Removes imperfections and increases adhesion. Vacuum and wipe with isopropyl alcohol to remove dust. Warning: never apply epoxy over dust or debris. It will be permanently trapped. Step 2. Mixing the final coat. Standard mixing ratio: 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. Always check the product label. Mixing process: 1. Measure exact amounts of resin, Part A, and hardener, Part B. 2. Mix for 3 to 5 minutes using a drill mixer at low speed. 3. Scrape the sides and bottom to ensure even mixing. 4. Let it sit for 2 minutes before pouring. Tip: If adding pigments, metallic powders, or color, mix them into Part A before adding Part B. Step 3. Applying the final epoxy coat. This layer will provide the ultimate durability and shine. Application process. 1. Pour epoxy in an S or zigzag pattern. 2. Spread evenly with a notched squeegee. Maintains thickness. 3. Backroll with a lint-free epoxy roller for a smooth finish. 4. Use a heat torch or spiked roller to remove air bubbles. Warning: work fast. Epoxy begins curing within 30 to 40 minutes. Step 4. Adding a protective top coat. Why is a top coat important? Increases scratch and UV resistance. Provides matte, satin, or glossy finishes. Prevents yellowing over time. Types of top coats. Glossy polyurethane coat, high shine. Best for modern looks. Matte polyurethane coat, low reflection. Best for industrial styles. Anti-slip coat, adds texture for safer flooring. Great for garages. How to apply. 1.
Mixer pour the top coat.
2. Roll it evenly using a microfiber roller. 3. Let it cure for 24 hours before light use. Tip: for outdoor floors, use a UV-resistant polyurethane top coat to prevent yellowing. Step 5. Final curing and maintenance tips. How long does it take to fully cure? Touch dry, 12 to 24 hours. Walkable, 48 to 72 hours. Fully cured, 7 days. Warning: avoid placing heavy furniture on the floor for at least 7 days. Maintenance tips: clean with mild soap and water. Avoid harsh chemicals. Use felt pads under furniture to prevent scratches. Recoat every 3 to 5 years for maximum durability. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Mistake number 1. Skipping the top coat. Problem: epoxy gets scratched easily. Solution: always apply a top coat for protection. Mistake number 2. Using too much epoxy at once. Problem: uneven curing, bubbling. Solution: apply in controlled layers. Mistake number 3. Not using anti-slip additives. Problem: floor becomes slippery when wet. Solution: add anti-slip granules for safety. That's it. Your epoxy floor is done. If you enjoyed this lesson, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more epoxy projects. Comment below. What finish do you prefer? Glossy, matte, or satin? Let me know. What's next? This was Lesson 5, but we're not done yet. In Lesson 6, we'll cover epoxy flooring repairs, maintenance, and touch-ups to keep your floors looking brand new. See you there.
In the glow, creations like Hanon Resin shining bright, molding dreams with every pore, building knowledge, opening doors with hands that shape and minds that soar. Crafted futures we explore, every piece of story told. In the heart of art we find bold gold. Join the journey, feel the spark. Together we'll lead.
Epoxy Flooring Masterclass, Lesson 6. Repairs and Maintenance. Objective of this lesson: learn how to repair damages, touch up scratches, and properly maintain an epoxy floor for long-lasting durability. Welcome back to Lesson 6 of the Epoxy Flooring Masterclass. Today, we'll cover how to repair scratches, chips, and cracks, plus best practices for maintaining your epoxy floor so it stays in perfect condition for years. Whether it's a scratch from furniture, a crack from heavy impact, or just general wear and tear, I'll show you how to fix it fast and easily. Let's get started. Step 1. Identifying common epoxy floor damages. Before repairing, identify the type of damage. Minor surface scratches, light marks from chairs, pet claws, or dragging items. Deep scratches or scuffs, visible lines affecting the top coat or epoxy layer. Chips or gouges, small missing chunks from dropped objects or tools. Cracks, structural damage from foundation movement or heavy loads. Peeling or bubbling caused by improper adhesion, moisture, or incorrect mixing. Step 2. Repairing minor scratches and scuffs. If the damage is light, here's a quick fix. Step-by-step repair. 1. Clean the surface with mild soap and water, remove dirt and grease. 2. Use a microfiber cloth and epoxy polish. Buff out light scratches. 3. For deeper scuffs, lightly sand with 800-1200 grit sandpaper. 4. Apply a fresh coat of clear epoxy or polyurethane topcoat for a seamless finish. Tip: always use a soft microfiber mop for regular cleaning to prevent fine scratches. Step 3. Fixing deep scratches and chips. For deeper damage, follow these steps. How to fix. 1. Clean the damaged area with isopropyl alcohol. 2. Lightly sand the scratch or chip with 400 to 600 grit sandpaper. 3. Mix a small batch of epoxy resin, matching the original color. 4. Apply the epoxy with a spatula and smooth it out. 5. Let it cure for 24 hours. Then sand and polish for a perfect blend. Tip: if your floor is tinted or metallic, mix pigments into the repair epoxy. Step 4. Repairing cracks in epoxy floors. Cracks can get worse over time. Here's how to fix them. Step-by-step repair. 1. Widen the cracks slightly with a small grinding tool for better adhesion. 2. Vacuum and clean to remove dust. 3. Mix a self-leveling epoxy filler and pour it into the crack. 4. Let it settle and use a spatula to smooth it. 5. Sand and apply a thin epoxy layer to blend with the existing floor. Tip: if cracks keep appearing, check if your foundation is shifting. Step 5. Fixing peeling, bubbling, and delamination. If your epoxy is peeling or bubbling, it's often due to moisture trapped under the epoxy, improper surface prep before installation, applying epoxy over a contaminated surface, dust, grease, or oil. How to fix. 1. Cut out the damaged area with a utility knife. 2. Sand the edges for a smooth transition. 3. Reapply a fresh coat of epoxy. Ensure proper adhesion. 4. Use a heat gun to remove air bubbles before it cures. Prevention tip: always moisture test your concrete before applying epoxy. Step 6. Maintaining your epoxy floor. Follow these tips to keep your floor looking brand new. Regular cleaning routine. Sweep daily to remove dust and debris. Mop weekly with a pH-neutral cleaner. No acidic or ammonia-based cleaners. Avoid using harsh chemicals like bleach. They can damage the top coat. Preventing scratches and wear. Use felt pads under furniture legs. Avoid dragging heavy objects. Place rugs or mats in high-traffic areas. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Mistake number 1. Using vinegar or ammonia-based cleaners. Problem: causes dullness and weakens epoxy over time. Solution: use a mild pH-neutral cleaner. Mistake number 2. Ignoring small cracks. Problem: they will expand and cause bigger issues. Solution: repair cracks immediately with an epoxy filler. Mistake number 3. Not reapplying a top coat over time. Problem: floor becomes prone to scratches and stains. Solution: reapply a polyurethane top coat every 3 to 5 years. That's it. Your epoxy floor is repaired and protected. If this video helped, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more epoxy flooring tips. Comment below. What's the biggest issue you've had with epoxy floors? Let me know. What's next? This was Lesson 6, but we're not stopping yet. In Lesson 7, we'll cover advanced epoxy flooring techniques, including metallic, marble, and 3D epoxy designs. See you there.
In the glow, creations like Hanon Resin shining bright, molding dreams with every pore, building knowledge, opening doors with hands that shape and minds that soar. Crafted futures we explore, every piece of story told. In the heart of art we find bold gold. Join the journey, feel the spark. Together we'll lead.
Epoxy Flooring Masterclass Lesson 7. Advanced Designs and Special Effects. Objective of this lesson: learn how to create metallic, marble, and 3D epoxy floors using special techniques for stunning visual effects. Welcome back to Lesson 7 of the Epoxy Flooring Masterclass. If you want to take your floors to the next level, today we'll explore metallic, marble, and 3D epoxy techniques. From luxurious marble effects to deep 3D illusions, these pro techniques will help you create eye-catching designs that are perfect for homes, showrooms, or commercial spaces. Let's dive in. Step 1. Creating metallic epoxy floors. Metallic epoxy creates a deep, fluid effect with swirls and motion. Materials needed: metallic epoxy pigments, gold, silver, bronze, or custom colors. Clear epoxy resin, self-leveling formula. Roller, notch squeegee, and heat gun. How to apply. 1. Prime the floor with a solid base coat, usually black, white, or gray. 2. Mix metallic pigments into your epoxy. Blend multiple shades for depth. 3. Pour the epoxy and spread it evenly with a notched squeegee. 4. Create depth by using a heat gun or blowtorch to move the pigments. 5. Let it settle and cure for 24 to 48 hours for a glass-like finish. Pro tip: move the heat gun in circular motions to create beautiful cloud-like effects. Step 2. Creating a 3D epoxy floor design. 3D epoxy floors use realistic images to create incredible depth and illusion. What you need: high-resolution 3D image printed on vinyl, waterproof. Clear epoxy resin, high gloss. Squeegee, roller, and heat gun. How to apply a 3D floor. 1. Prepare the surface. Smooth, primed floor for adhesion. 2. Lay the printed 3D image carefully over the floor. 3. Seal the edges with clear epoxy to prevent lifting. 4. Pour a thick layer of clear epoxy resin. Self-leveling. 5. Use a heat gun to remove bubbles and let it cure for 48 hours. Pro tip: always order high-quality vinyl prints to avoid blurry images when applying epoxy. What's next? This was Lesson 7, but we're going even further. In Lesson 8, we'll cover epoxy flooring cost calculation and budgeting, so you can plan your projects like a pro. See you there. Epoxy Flooring Masterclass, Lesson 8. Conclusion and final tips. Objective of this lesson: recap key lessons, share expert tips, recommend suppliers, and guide the next steps for success in epoxy flooring. Congratulations! You've completed the Hanon Resin Craft Epoxy Flooring Masterclass. You now have the skills to create professional-grade epoxy floors, from basic preparation to advanced metallic, marble, and 3D designs. In this final lesson, we'll recap key takeaways, share pro tips, recommend trusted suppliers, and discuss your next steps to start your epoxy journey. Let's dive in. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining me on this epoxy flooring journey. I hope this course has inspired you to create stunning epoxy floors and even turn your passion into a business. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your favorite lesson below. I can't wait to see what you create. Tag me in your epoxy projects. What's next? Want to learn more? Stay tuned for upcoming videos on epoxy countertops, furniture, and creative resin projects. See you in the next tutorial.
In the glow, creations like Hanon Craft, resin shining bright, molding dreams with every pore, building knowledge, opening doors, with hands that shape and minds that soar. Crafted futures we explore, every piece a story told. In the heart of art we find bold gold. Join the journey, feel the spark, together